One of the things I talk about all the time on this channel is the importance and value of listening to intuition. I realize I use this phrase a lot, but for a lot of people, this may be sort of a foreign concept. Following your gut is an important part of Taoism, and it is the essence of Wu Wei. I'm hoping that in this video I can make it a little more clear what it means to follow intuition, so that I can give you a starting point from which to start learning yourself. Now, I said that intuition may be a foreign concept to a lot of people, but I think for most people it shouldn't be a foreign feeling. I think that all of us have experienced some kind of gut urge that turned out to be right. It's just that maybe we never gave it a name or thought about it as a concept that can be studied and mastered. But intuition is accessible to everyone, no matter who or where you are. That being said, there are things we can do to cultivate our responsiveness to intuition, so that it will be easier for us to hear and respond to it. I'm going to get a little more into that later, but first of all, let's define what I mean when I say intuition. When I use the word intuition, I'm referring to a sort of gut impulse that comes to everybody at some time or another. Many people have different explanations about where this is supposed to come from. For example, in ancient times, the Romans believed in a sort of spirit called a genius that joined you at birth and stayed with you throughout your life. This genius acted as a sort of guide, bringing you helpful ideas and issuing warnings when it thought you needed them. It could also spark creativity and give you flashes of brilliance. This is actually where the word genius comes from. People never used to refer to a smart person as a genius. They said you had a genius. In ancient China, the concept of ancestor worship was heavily ingrained into their religious culture. People believed that the spirits of dead ancestors could guide you as you went about your life. Whether you believe that intuition comes from a genius, spirit ancestor, or your inner being, there is undoubtedly some kind of influence outside of ourselves that can guide us and issue advice and warnings if we will listen to it. This is the thing that a lot of Christians refer to as the Holy Spirit. Sometimes these promptings come on strongly and are hard to ignore, but usually they are only whispers, and we can miss them altogether if we're not paying attention. With this in mind, there are some things that can help when we're trying to cultivate our responsiveness to intuition. The first thing is to try to spend regular time being quiet and not doing anything. Meditation is great for this, or prayer as well if that's your thing. Getting out by yourself in nature is especially good. Whatever you do, just try to eliminate distractions and be alone with your thoughts without any outside stimuli. Take some time during the day to turn off your phone and just think about things. The pushes and pulls of intuition are often very subtle and easy to miss if we're always stimulated. Taking some time to be quiet and connect with nature is one of the biggest ways to invite it into our lives. Speaking of our lives, the second tip is to try to bring your life at least somewhat in order. Intuition can come to us at any time, whatever our life circumstances, and this isn't a matter of having to somehow measure up in order for intuition to come to you. But we are much more open to the pushes and pulls of intuition when we're not constantly distracted or bothered by things going on in our lives. Having a clean physical space, getting your relationships in order, and in general, just working on being overall a good person helps to keep your mind open to hearing intuition when it comes. If this sounds like kind of a weird point to you, just think about it for a second. Think about the last time that you were really angry at somebody for something. Doesn't that feeling just kind of take over your whole mind? When we're focused on a negative emotion like that, it makes it a lot harder to leave room for influences from our intuition. You don't have to be perfect for intuition to come to you, but bringing order and harmony into your life makes it easier for you to hear your intuition and respond. The third and final tip I have is that when you feel prompted to do something, obey the urge as quickly and as exactly as possible. The more you act on intuition, the more it comes to you. Intuition is kind of like a muscle that atrophies if it's not used. Sometimes, especially when you're starting out, it can seem hard to distinguish between intuition and just normal everyday thoughts. You can recognize intuition because it comes with a feeling of peace. It's the feeling that what you're feeling to do is just somehow right, even if it doesn't seem logical, comfortable, or fun. I know that this sounds a little vague, but really the only way to get a feel for it is to practice. Another thing that can really help is to start an intuition journal. Get a little notebook to set aside for this. Make a separate entry for every day. During the day, whenever a thought or feeling comes into your head to do something, write it down. Write down what the thought was and how it made you feel. Try to record distinguishing details so that you can identify similar urges later. Then act on it right away. At the end of the day, write down whether or not you acted on it and what the result was. If you do this diligently, you will start to see trends. You'll start to realize that different kinds of thoughts have different feelings associated with them, And based on the results, you can start to see which ones are the ones you want to listen to. It may not always be clear right away whether or not a thought was intuition, but over time, you'll start to see a positive trend develop around certain kinds of urges and promptings that you can then begin to associate with your intuition. In general, the things that are intuition will end up yielding positive results in your life. And again, remember that while these results may be positive, they may not always be comfortable. Our intuition will often push us to do something that is well outside our comfort zone, or that we may not want to do. But in my experience, the urges that are the most uncomfortable to act on usually yield the highest rewards, because they move us to do things that we otherwise wouldn't do, and therefore we get results that we normally wouldn't get. I hope this is making sense, and if you have any questions about this, you're more than welcome to put it in the comments or come into the Discord and tag me with them. I understand that this is all new to a lot of people, and I'm more than happy to help clear up any questions you have. Learning to live a life led by intuition may push you to do a lot of things that are contrary to the norm of how most people live. But at the end of the day, this is kind of just what it means to embody Wu Wei. Remember that most people in the world are not living in a state of Wu Wei, and therefore, when we choose to do this, our lives and actions will inevitably end up looking different than theirs. I know that sometimes it will be uncomfortable, but I also know from my own experience that it is absolutely worth it. Again, please feel free to send me any questions if you need help. As always, thank you so much for watching, and peace and blessings.